In the wake of this vaccine news, President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris met with the heads of major companies and labor unions earlier to discuss their economic agenda. This afternoon, Mr. Biden said the economy cannot get better if the pandemic isn't under control.
We all agreed that we want to get the economy back on track. We need our workers to be back on the job by getting the virus under control. We're going into a very dark winter. Things are going to get much tougher before they get easier. And that requires sparing no effort to fight COVID so that we can open our businesses safely, resume our lives, and put this pandemic behind us. It's going to be difficult, but it can be done.
Washington Post economics correspondent Heather Long joins me now. Hi there, Heather. So what pledges stood out to you in the president-elect's remarks today?
Well, he certainly had a lot to say. Obviously, a lot of people were comforted that he was trying to bring business leaders together, union leaders together, trying to paint this urging and picture of unity. He walked out with a mask. He made a comment that, macho men wear masks. He said his own family would limit their Thanksgiving celebration to 10 people, no more than 10. So he was trying to really paint this picture that to get the economy going again, we have to control this virus. But what stood out the most to me and a lot of people watching this speech is the big question is, can Republicans and Democrats in Congress come together on a stimulus package? Economists overwhelmingly say we need something. The economy needs something, especially as cases rise and some businesses are having to close again across the country. Biden today did not really extend an olive branch. Instead, he came out and he said he really supports the House Democrats' bill, which is $3 trillion of aid. That might be what the economy needs, but the Republicans have been clear they will not go over $1 trillion. So a lot of people were listening carefully today to see would Biden, would he try to strike some sort of compromise between that $1 trillion and $3 trillion? He really did not.
So, Heather, a lot of people are watching. We talk about this all the time to see what it is in the meantime that Congress plans to do. But how dire could things get if we don't see a package passed by the end of the year?
I think it's telling that a lot of Democratic economists, some of whom advise the Biden campaign, have been urging Biden and House Speaker Pelosi to take whatever they can get from Republicans, whether it's $500 billion, whether it's $1 trillion. Basically, people are saying the needs are so dire right now that any money is better than zero. And in particular, you can see it in obviously, we still have a large number of unemployed people in this country who are struggling right now to pay their bills. But even on top of that, looking at the broader economy, we've seen a slowdown just in the last few weeks in spending. You can see a real-time pullback in credit card spending as these cases are rising. People are not going out, regardless of whether it's okay, regardless of whether there's a stay-at-home order in effect. That doesn't matter. People are voting with their feet. As soon as they see cases rising in their area, they aren't spending anymore. And so we're going to need more aid for the economy. I'm especially worried about small businesses.
Yeah, Heather, on this issue of lockdown, so the president-elect's coronavirus advisory board, we know, is working on some national strategies to try to help local leaders implement new lockdowns as it becomes necessary. I'm wondering what you're hearing. Have people that you've spoken with been supportive of that kind of idea?
This is a really tough one, and frankly, the Biden team's message has been pretty muddled in the last few weeks, and I think it was muddled again today. The President-elect Biden, when he was point-blank asked about whether we need more lockdowns or stay-at-home orders in the United States, he said it depends on the state. He didn't really elaborate beyond that, and then he changed topics, basically. He started praising some governors who have taken strong actions. So it's still really unclear where the Biden camp stands on this. Some of the members of that task force have said we do need 4 to 6 week lockdowns. Others have said they are not supportive of that. So I think they're still working through that. This is a really, really hard question. Obviously, everyone wants to protect lives. We don't want to see more people die in this country, but we also don't want to live in a world where there's no small businesses left in our towns and communities. And so how do you balance some of those needs? How do you reopen safely is the big question. And I think you can see the tension in the Biden team as they try to figure out what those rules are going to be.
Yeah, because we've heard time and time again that small businesses really are so important with respect to the engine that drives our economy forward. Heather, you recently reported that people who felt like they were better off voted for a change in the White House instead of re-electing President Trump. How different is that from previous cycles?
It was kind of surprising. I mean, really, ever since Ronald Reagan campaigned in 1980 and said, are you better off after 4 years? That was his big line. Ever since then, the general belief has been that if voters feel better off, if their area is thriving and growing and the business is doing well, that they would vote to re-elect the president. It's kind of the exact opposite. When you look at county level trends on population, economic growth, jobs, what you see is 95 out of the 100 biggest cities and urban areas, so places that are generally growing really fast and have been doing pretty well in the last 4 years, 95 out of 100 of the biggest metro areas voted for Joe Biden. And we just haven't ever seen anything like that before. You think back to the early 2000s, like Bush v. Kerry or Bush v. Gore, and you saw much, much closer of an alignment in how Republicans and Democrats were winning larger, thriving urban areas. Now, Trump did really well in places that are relatively struggling, in more rural areas and smaller cities that are still trying to find their way in this digital economy.
Well, Heather, what are the potential problems with this new kind of political divide?
I think this goes right to the heart of why Republicans and Democrats are struggling to agree on so much right now. They really represent very different parts of the population, culturally and economically. Democrats right now basically are winning in these large urban areas where there's a lot of highly educated, college-educated people who tend to be better off, who tend to be doing well in the digital economy. On the flip side, Republicans are growing their base in these more rural and smaller cities that are still heavily reliant on blue-collar jobs, so manufacturing, construction, energy extraction. And so obviously the people in those areas have a very different vision of what they think the economy needs and how they think the help needs to happen in the next few months and the next few years. And I think we're just going to keep seeing this tension playing out between urban and rural, and also between the digital economy and the blue-collar economy.